Doom: The Dark Ages is the rarest type of game. It's a type of game where you download it, boot it up, and have fun. It seems like 100 first-person shooters are revealed at Xbox showcases, and 99 of them turn out to be bad. The coveted big AAA game is dead, and the quadruple A game was never alive to begin with. That's why it's so impressive that Doom: The Dark Ages is a real game. Doom 2016 is one of the best games of the last decade. A solid 9 out of 10 game, I like it very much. Doom Eternal, on the other hand, is the most 11 out of 10 game I've ever played. Absolutely peak game. You don't like it? How about fuck you? Doom: The Dark Ages marks the dark age of id Software because instead of being a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, it's instead only an 8 out of 10 great game. What the fuck? If Doom 2016 and Eternal's tagline was rip and tear and the Dark Ages is stand and fight, I hope the next game goes by lies and manipulation because Marty Stratton is a scumfuck cunt that should have been fired after how Mick Gordon was treated. Don't buy Doom: The Dark Ages. It's $120 Australian and Marty Stratton is evil. Go play it on Game Pass like I did. I was incredibly skeptical of this new Doom game. While I thought the aesthetic was really sick, the more that came out about the gameplay and the structure of the game, the more worried I felt. Doom 2016 was a very simple back-to-basics FPS game with a campaign so amazing that people wanted more. In Doom Eternal, Crafted was one of the greatest combat systems to ever grace a video game. The mechanics were smooth, the enemies and their weak points, resource management, all of these combat rules didn't inherently limit the player in their approach to combat, but rather would let them be as creative as they want once they enter that fun zone. You couldn't play this game like Doom 2016. The gameplay rules set in place forced you to utilize every single weapon in your arsenal. It wasn't as much difficult as it was demanding of your attention. 2016 having pretty much no rules to combat and being a very loosey-goosey game might appear as though you have more ways to approach combat, but in practice, it's more restrictive because most players will default to using the one strongest weapon in the game. In Doom Eternal, you might have felt weak at the start of your playthrough, but you come out of it feeling the power fantasy that Doom 2016 only flirted with. Doom: The Dark Ages looked fucking awesome. Doom guy with a cape. It's medieval as fuck now. The weapon that crushes skulls as ammunition is like the coolest thing in the world, and the shield just... This was shaping up to be the best Doom: The Dark Ages of all time. Then we learned more about the game, and my enthusiasm sort of went away. There was going to be a bigger emphasis on story. The levels were going to be bigger, as in big open zone maps. The game looked notably slower than Eternal, as if it was a reaction to Doom Eternal's loudest haters. The confirmation of a slider to change the game's speed was as baffling as it was disappointing. I immediately jumped to the conclusion that they couldn't balance the game properly and just gave you all the options for how you wanted the game to play, something that a game like Sonic Frontiers got criticized for. The big open zone levels being implemented in series where the levels were historically smaller, well-designed, tight maps. We saw COD do this exact same thing and fail horribly, but like your grandmother, my faith was being challenged by people who know better than me, because when I started playing the game, I realized I was stupid. Immediately, the aesthetic of the game just comes off as really fucking cool. These demons are the same demons that players have been shooting since 1993, so seeing these grand redesigns in a new context is fucking awesome to see. The story setup in general is pretty cool. Doom Guy being this weapon who was being used by the makers fighting alongside the Sentinels is a compelling setup, but honestly, I have to search up the names of these guys. All I got from the story is that Doom Guy's cool, these guys good, demons bad, and these guys betray the good guys to side with the demons, and Doom Guy's just really cool. Some of it may be fun to watch, but I'm sorry, I couldn't care less about the narrative in a Doom game. All I need is an effective setup, and then for the game to let me go. If you have cutscenes throughout the game, let them be brief. I'm talking about Doom specifically, don't have it be taken so seriously. I do like the overall tone of this game, but the story taking itself as seriously as it does doesn't do the game any favors.
Nice job, team.
Gameplay is the most important part of any game, and Doom has got it right so far in this trilogy. But is it a regression from Eternal? Is it maybe different but equally captivating? Well, I played on the Nightmare difficulty at normal speed, and my first impression, the game was fine. The gameplay footage pre-release did a massive disservice to the game. Doom: The Dark Ages can be fast. In fact, it can be faster than Eternal at times. And I don't mean faster because of the slider. I'm going to be strictly speaking about normal speed. In fact, I'm all for accessibility, but this slider is bullshit. I'm happy for you if you like it, but it literally just speeds up everything as advertised, I guess, but it feels so wrong. It's literally just playing the game at 1.5 times speed. Dialogue is faster. It's cringe, I'm sorry. Just watching it feels wrong. This comes from someone who doesn't even really like difficulty options. The game feels pretty great, stock standard. It seems like the game was primarily designed for the default settings, which is good, because I will always take a game that was designed for its one difficulty setting rather than a game that has 5 different difficulty settings, let alone sliders to change parry windows and shit. Dark Ages immediately feels good to play, even though my frame rate has been brought down from 300 FPS in Doom Eternal to around 60 to 70 in this because of the forced ray tracing. I'm pretty sure the only reason ray tracing is forced was because of how big the game is, and they didn't want to go in and make lighting systems, but honestly, that's bullshit. AAA devs have been doing this for years. Doom: The Dark Ages does have big levels, and those are the worst ones in the game, but we'll get to that. The industry has been full of big open world games for the longest time with normal lighting. You seriously couldn't do normal lighting for this game? Other than that, the game is incredibly well optimized. It runs well for a game that has ray tracing forced on. If you prefer how Dark Ages looks over the others, it's probably because of the art direction, which is cool as well. It's a bit less saturated than Eternal. I'm sure the fidelity is probably higher, but brother, Eternal looks just as great and runs infinitely better. After adjusting to the lower frame rate, I can safely say the guns pack a punch. The sound design in this game is fucking delicious. Every time Doom Guy lands from a jump, it's like boom, and when you shoot the guns, it's like the coolest thing ever. Sounds fucking good. I guess it plays good too. The shield is more fun than I thought it would be. Dark Ages takes a page out of my holy video game rulebook and implements a parry, because parry should be in every video game. While this game is a 3D bullet hell at times, similar to the OG Doom games, dissimilar to those games, some projectiles can be parried, and it is liberating. You can parry any move, melee or projectile, that glows green. Seeing a demon shoot a projectile in the distance, then jumping towards it, launching that shit right back at them, satisfies me on a truly animalistic level. It is such a gamer instinct to parry that shit and follow it up with a fucking shield bash. You can fly at enemies at close to very long ranges, bashing them in with your shield. Some demons can even be stunned by melee attacks, and the shield bash is included. It's maybe not a blatant movement option, as it's only used when attacking demons, but it creates an awesome sense of speed. You can also throw your shield like Captain America, and this shit is awesome. It's basically your crowd control option. Taking out waves of demons has never been this easy. You don't want a mancubus to shoot fire at you? Throw that shield, then sprinkle it with shotgun pellets. It's an awesome weapon that's as useful as it is badass. Shooting demons with the coolest guns in the industry, parrying attacks and stun-locking demons, it's super captivating. It's not as heavy on the resource management as Doom Eternal, but there's still plenty of fodder demons that are intended to be killed for ammo and health. Weapon variety isn't perfect, we'll get to that, but there are a select few weapons that are good at doing certain things. A lot of demons have armor that you have to heat up by dealing damage to it, to then make it explode, making them vulnerable. The chain shot or an upgraded super shotgun deals great damage to armored enemies. The game is a bit more loosey-goosey than Doom Eternal, but I'd still find myself performing really satisfying combos. This game on Nightmare might not be harder than Doom Eternal, but I definitely found it more challenging than 2016, so using all of my core mechanics was necessary to dispose of demons as quickly as possible. The weapons in this game are also really cool, even if a lot of them are absolutely useless. The Pulverizer and Ravager are some of the most creatively metal weapons I've ever seen in a video game. The Super Shotgun is awesome as always, the Chain Shot is surprisingly cool, but the biggest issue with the weapon pool in this game is that a lot of them are outclassed by other weapons. The Shredder becomes obsolete as soon as you get the Impaler or the Accelerator, but then the Accelerator becomes obsolete as soon as you get the Cycler. Do you see my issue? There's nothing I hate more than not having a reason to use certain weapons in games like these. I do appreciate how they handled having multiple weapons if you want to quick swap. Almost every gun has its counterpart, the impaler to the shredder, the super shotgun to the combat shotgun, and you can switch between the two by the press of a button, similar to how weapon mods worked in Doom Eternal. But since there's pretty much a superior weapon to its counterpart, I had it set to what I want and didn't really experiment much. As previously mentioned, I found that some weapons were good for certain situations. I like using the cycler to apply the shock status effect so I could deal extra damage. Certain upgrades also change the way you play with certain weapons. Parrying with the chain shot, or impaler if I'm not mistaken, will instantly fully charge your next shot. Some of the stronger enemies later in the game force you to parry in a close range battle, meaning that you want to switch to a weapon that benefits from parrying. Weapons being good against certain enemies in certain situations is a great thing to take from Doom Eternal, and I'm glad that they didn't completely abandon that philosophy in this game. Even on Nightmare, however, I did feel as though if I wanted to, I could play the entire game with one weapon. I do believe it's more optimal and more fun to not play that way, but a lot of the time, your weapon feels secondary to the melee mechanics. This game wants you to use all these different weapons because A, they're cool as shit, and B, they have certain use cases. This game also wants you to parry attacks, shield bash, stun enemies, use your flail. The entire design philosophy for the Dark Ages is compelling and fun on paper, but the way that this game plays at times is antithetical to its supposed design philosophy. Switching weapons takes so damn long, and this isn't inherently a bad thing. I could potentially appreciate measures to get rid of that hyper-fast ADHD quick-swapping gameplay from Doom Eternal, even though I find that inherently fun, but the issue is more that this game is incredibly reaction-based, and other mechanical flaws exacerbate this one issue. You cannot cancel your weapon swap animation into a parry. Knowing this, I highly recommend to change this setting, because if you don't, you will often run out of ammo on a weapon, be locked into switching to another weapon, attempt to parry an attack, then get killed by no fault of your own. If the last weapon I was holding was the cycler, for example, because I wanted to apply the status effect, you can't instantly pull out another weapon after a parry, and God forbid you try to mash the hotkey for another weapon after you parry, because the game's long buffer history will make you swap to the other weapon with a slow as shit animation, so if the enemy has a follow-up attack, guess what? You're getting hit. Another thing that makes this game unresponsive is that at times you just can't throw your shield or shield bash. The shield does have durability to be aware of, and that's good. If it breaks, you can't use it until the health bar recovers. That's fine. What isn't fine is the lack of a visual cooldown for your shield bash. You can't chain shield bashes together. If you try to input a shield bash after just doing one, the game just says no. That could be okay, but not having a visual to tell me how the game's mechanics are working artificially inflates the difficulty. The combat is like 1 or 2 tweaks away from being truly perfect. When the stars do align, it's really something special. They captured lightning in a bottle again, except they just couldn't make it control the way it was supposed to. I will say, the bosses here are a lot of fun, better than the bosses in the previous games. I wish they went a little crazier. I think this combat system has a lot of potential in the boss department. Go absolutely crazy with the bullet hell and parries. As it stands, it's still great, but it left me wanting more. Instead of having 2 dashes on a cooldown, you now just have a sprint, which is fine. I thought I was gonna hate this, but it's completely fine for what this game is. The level design and exploration are overall really good. Doom and Resident Evil have the best maps in the industry, which makes traversing the big, annoying levels a little bit easier. When the level is linear, tightly designed, with good little brain teasers for progression and secrets, the game shines. I love how exploration feels in this game. A lot of the puzzles are fairly simple, but it keeps your brain active in a very fun and engaging way. It's a great yin and yang with the combat of this game. The bigger open zone maps kind of suck, but it might have been my fault for why I didn't enjoy them as much. I spent so much time on these maps because I wanted to get everything. It feels kind of awful to run from one side of the map to the other side of the map, back and forth when you get a key that opens a new path. It does get exhausting. If all the levels were more condensed and more traditional, I would have no issue. What really sucks in this game, and what really grinds my gears, are the fucking mech and dragman segments. Holy shit. Why do developers feel the need to shoehorn dog shit gimmicks into games? This game doesn't need this dumb ass shit to break up the monotony. Bitch, this is the monotony. Doom Eternal was a confident game that didn't feel the need to shoehorn a shallow gimmick level amongst the content I actually actually wanted to play. The mech parts fucking suck. All you do is left click to punch, right click to also punch or kick, then spacebar to dodge. It's so slow and not challenging. The only time it's demanding is the last segment where you have to continually parry attacks because they realize there's no way to meaningfully make this shallow gameplay challenging, so they just put a bunch of bullshit everywhere. Also, I forgot to mention, I wish you could turn off the slowdown when you parry attacks. It would have maybe been okay if you controlled a mech at the very end of the game for one level. There's no argument for, oh, they probably spent so much time fleshing out the mech gameplay. It wouldn't make sense for them to only include it for one level. Motherfucker, are you watching what's on the screen right now? The dragon segments are marginally less offensive, but they're still only here to waste my time. The game already has a good balance of combat and exploration. This Xbox 360 era bullshit is a baffling inclusion. Speaking of which, this looks and plays like a mobile phone game ad. Shoot at the guys, charge up a big shot, then shoot the big guy. Like, come on, man. I just expect so much better from these developers. The gimmick levels might be fine for one playthrough, but with a combat system this interesting, why would you stop after the credits roll? The game has a disposable story and music that is a notable step down from Mick Gordon's tracks. No hate to Finishing Move, they did a good job, but it just lacks that ferocity that Mick Gordon's music had. The combat is so close to being something I want to put hours upon hours into, but it's frustratingly conflicted with itself in what it wants to be. This isn't Dark Souls, brother. This is Doom. With all that said, I still enjoyed my time with the game. I almost forgot to mention that the load times are insanely fast. I played this on an SSD and this has to be some of, if not, the quickest load times in a modern AAA game. I also thought I'd miss glory kills, but I didn't. I still love them for what they are in the previous games, but it felt fine not having them. Occasionally you can trigger a glory kill-like animation, and the scarcity of them when these do appear greatly increase the impact. The game might be deeply frustrating for me as a huge fan of this trilogy, but I was still playing a great AAA game.